My wife and I got divorced just because. I didn't mean to hear it. I swear, I wasn't eavesdropping or anything. I was just standing in the kitchen, washing dishes like I always do after Jessica's dinner parties. She had her friends and family over that Saturday night. It was something she'd been planning for weeks, and I'd spent most of the day helping her get everything just right. I grilled the steaks medium rare, exactly how her dad likes them, cleaned the house from top to bottom to her exacting standards, even put out those ridiculous decorative hand towels in the bathroom that no one's actually supposed to use. Dinner went smoothly. I smiled in all the right moments, laughed at her brother-in-law's painfully unfunny jokes, and made sure everyone's drinks stayed full. The perfect host, the perfect husband. After the meal, I offered to clean up while they moved to the living room for dessert and coffee. No one objected. No one thanked me either. It was just expected. So there I was, hands deep in soapy water, half listening to the sounds of laughter drifting from the living room. That kind of laughter that always made me feel like an outsider in my own home. And then I heard it. Jessica's sister Emma has this unmistakable laugh like a hyena who's been chain smoking for 2 decades. I could pick it out anywhere. She was laughing the loudest. Then came Jessica's voice, clear and casual, like she was stating the weather. He can't please anyone anyway. Just like that. And they all laughed. Even her mom, the same woman I helped move apartments last month, carrying heavy furniture up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. She laughed too, like it was just some shared truth they all knew and accepted. I stood there, frozen, white-knuckled, gripping a plate that dripped water onto the floor. I'm not a small guy. I played rugby in college, still hit the gym 4 times a week, but in that moment, I felt small, pathetic even. I waited for Jessica to follow it up with a joke. A just kidding. A but he tries so hard. Nothing. She moved on to the next topic, like she hadn't just gut-punched me with a single sentence. I dried the plate, set it down, picked up another, washed it, dried it, set it down, again and methodical. Like if I just focused hard enough on the dishes, I could ignore what I'd just heard. But I couldn't. He can't please anyone anyway. It kept replaying in my head like a loop. And the worst part, this wasn't new. It was just the first time I really heard it. Really let it land. Suddenly, it was like someone had taken the lens cap off a camera I'd been using for years. Everything was clearer. The little eye rolls, the sighs, the dismissive comments, the disappointment in her voice every time something wasn't perfect. It had always been there. I just didn't want to see it. Let me rewind a bit. Jessica and I met when I was 26 and she was 24. I was working as a financial advisor, nothing glamorous, just helping everyday folks plan for retirement. I wasn't rich, but I was good at what I did. I could make sense of complicated numbers without making people's eyes glaze over. We met at a wedding classic setup. She was a bridesmaid. I was a groomsman. She was this stunning blonde in marketing for a luxury clothing brand, way out of my league. Or so I thought. When she agreed to dance with me, I figured someone had dared her. When she gave me her number, I thought it had to be fake, but it wasn't. We went out the next weekend. I spent 3 hours getting ready. 3 hours for a guy who usually just grabs whatever's clean. I even Googled the restaurant ahead of time to make sure it was fancy enough. The date went great. She laughed at my jokes, touched my arm, made it clear she was into me. I couldn't believe it. I kept waiting for the twist, for her to reveal she was just messing with me. But date 1 turned into date 2, then 3, and before I knew it, we were exclusive. Looking back now, there were red flags early on. On our 4th date, I took her to a cozy Italian spot. I love nothing fancy, but amazing food. She picked at her pasta and said she usually went to the place downtown, the one that cost 3 times as much. I got her flowers for Valentine's Day. She thanked me but mentioned her ex always bought from some florist I'd never heard of. Little things, comments, comparisons. I brushed them off because I was just so damn grateful she chose me. We got married 2 years later. I felt like I'd won the lottery. My mom was thrilled. My dad gave me a rare approving nod. Jessica's parents tolerated me. They never said anything overtly negative, but I could always feel it, that quiet undertone of she could have done better. Her dad was a surgeon. Her mom came from old money. Me, I was a middle-class guy with student loans and a Honda Civic. After we married, things moved fast. Jessica wanted a house in a neighborhood that we couldn't really afford, but she insisted it was important for career networking. I said yes. I always said yes. I took on 60-hour weeks, grinding hard to climb the ladder. I wasn't chasing status. I was trying to give her what she wanted: the kitchen renovations, the vacations in Mexico, the designer bags. Sure, I enjoyed some of those things too, but most of the time, it was for her. I remember this one trip, 5-star resort, ocean view room, nearly a month's salary. I was stressed about money the whole time, but she was smiling, posting pictures online with captions like #blessed and hubby does it right. I told myself it was worth it, but even back then, I should have known. It was in the way she sighed when I gave her a gift, the way she compared me to her friends' husbands. Ryan took Sarah to Paris. Jason just got promoted to VP. It never stopped. By year 5, I was running on fumes, always guessing, always trying to avoid upsetting her, walking on eggshells. We went to therapy once. Her idea after I forgot our anniversary. I sat there in that office while she listed all the ways I'd failed her, and I nodded, apologized, promised to do better. The therapist, a woman about our age, asked Jessica what she appreciated about me. There was this long, awful pause. Then Jessica said, "He's very reliable. And he's good with money. Like I was a damn Honda Civic. Reliable, good mileage, gets the job done. That's it." We didn't go back after the 3rd session. Jessica said the therapist was biased because she asked Jessica to work on communication too. By the time that dinner party rolled around, we were already living separate lives under one roof. I worked, hit the gym, watched TV in the basement. She stayed upstairs, doing whatever she did. We hadn't been intimate in months. I'd tried a few times, but the rejections got sharper. Eventually, I gave up. We weren't a couple. We were a brand. I provided the lifestyle. She posted the highlights. That night, after everyone left, I couldn't sleep. Jessica was out cold by 11:30. Like always, I lay there, staring at the ceiling, her words on loop in my head. He can't please anyone anyway. I always thought I was easy to please. Give me pizza, a cold beer, a game with my friends, I'm good. But somehow, in Jessica's version of things, I was the unreasonable one, the impossible one. I started remembering all the times she made me feel small. All the side eyes, the sarcasm, the little jabs that chipped away at me piece by piece. Her last birthday, I surprised her with a weekend getaway to Napa, researched everything. Found a boutique hotel, even booked a private wine tasting. She looked at the itinerary and said, "Couldn't you have picked the resort I showed you instead?" I once took a cooking class to improve my steak game, practiced for weeks, made her a fancy dinner with a red wine reduction sauce. She took one bite, made a face, and ordered takeout. For her company party, I spent forever getting my tie right. As we were walking out the door, she glanced at me and said, "That tie doesn't really go with your shirt, but whatever, we're late." Memory after memory poured in. The time she corrected my pronunciation of a wine in front of her friends, the way she answered questions directed at me, the way she reviewed my emails before I sent them, just to make sure they sounded professional. Even how I loaded the dishwasher wasn't good enough for her. And still, I kept trying, kept telling myself she was just stressed, that it wasn't as bad as it felt, that if I worked harder, loved harder, she'd finally look at me the way I looked at her. But lying there, watching her sleep peacefully, after casually humiliating me in front of her entire family, something finally clicked. It was never about me doing something wrong. It was about the fact that nothing I did would ever be enough for her. For the first time in our marriage, I felt angry, not frustrated, not disappointed, angry. I got out of bed at 3 a.m., careful not to wake her, and went downstairs. I sat in the dark, in the same room where I'd been humiliated just hours earlier, and poured myself a drink, and I thought about what I wanted, not what would make Jessica happy, not what would keep the peace, just what I wanted. And what I wanted was out. I woke up the next morning on the couch, neck stiff, back sore. For a second, I was disoriented. Then everything came rushing back: the party, the words, the drink in the dark. But there was something else too. Clarity. I wasn't hungover. I'd only had one drink. But something inside me had shifted. It was subtle, like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. But not because anything had been solved. It was because I finally knew the truth. I wasn't the problem. I checked the clock 6:15 a.m. Jessica wouldn't be up for hours. Sundays were sacred to her sleep schedule. She never moved before 9. And even then, she'd spend another hour scrolling through her phone before getting out of bed. I grabbed a quick shower, put on some comfortable clothes, and left. No note, no text, no explanation. I just walked out the front door and let myself breathe. I don't even remember where I went. I just drove. Maybe it was the freedom of not having to explain myself that made it feel like the most peaceful morning I'd had in years. When I got back a few hours later, Jessica was in the kitchen in her silk pajamas, hair tousled just right, like she was in a shampoo ad. She always looked flawless in the mornings, annoyingly so. But the look she gave me was one I knew well. I was in trouble. "Where were you?" she snapped. "I woke up and you were just gone. No note, no text, nothing." Before, I would have apologized right away. I'd have scrambled to make excuses, begged for forgiveness, made sure she wasn't mad anymore. But not this time. I walked to the fridge, grabbed a water bottle, drank half of it, and said, "Went out." She blinked. "For over 2 hours. Yep." I opened the cupboard and started making breakfast. Calmed, quiet, unmoved. "Well, I needed you here," she said, crossing her arms. "My parents are coming over later. I want to move the furniture in the living room. I found this new layout in Architectural Digest. I want to try." Classic Jessica, plans made without checking with me. Expectations dumped on me like it was a given, her latest aesthetic whim. And, of course, it required my labor. Before, I'd have jumped to help, maybe skipped breakfast, rolled up my sleeves, and moved everything twice because she changed her mind halfway through. But not today. "I'll help you after I eat," I said. She stared at me like I'd grown a third arm. "They'll be here in 2 hours. "That's plenty of time," I said evenly, flipping an egg in the pan. "Besides, you could have texted me if it was urgent. I shouldn't have to text my own husband to be where he's supposed to be." That got me. I turned to her and looked her dead in the eyes. "And where exactly am I supposed to be?" "Jessica, at your beck and call, 24/7. Her eyes widened. In 8 years of marriage, I had never spoken to her like that. Hell, I rarely spoke to anyone like that. I'd always been the nice guy, the fixer, the one who kept the peace, even at the expense of my own sanity. "What is wrong with you?" she asked, her voice quieter now, like she didn't quite know how to handle this version of me. "Nothing," I said. "I'm just tired." I turned back to the stove. "I'm going to eat now." We moved the furniture later, like she wanted, but I did it my way. I suggested a different layout than the one in the magazine, one that actually made sense for the space. And to my surprise, she didn't argue. She just watched me, quiet, like she was seeing me for the first time. Her parents came over around noon. I was polite, respectful, but I wasn't kissing ass like I usually did. Her dad, James, did his usual thing, subtle digs wrapped in fake curiosity. "So how's the financial planning business?" he asked with that smug smile. "Still telling people to save for retirement." I usually let those comments slide. I'd smile awkwardly and change the subject. "Not today. It's going well, James," I said, using his first name instead of sir like I usually did. "Just helped a client navigate a 7-figure inheritance last month. Saved him about $150 skin taxes through some creative planning." He blinked. "Didn't expect that." "Well," he said after a pause, "good for you." The rest of the visit was tense but uneventful. When they left, Jessica turned to me, arms crossed. "What was that about?" she demanded. "What was what about? You know what, with my dad, with me. You were different." "What's going on with you?" I could have given her an excuse. Work stress. Didn't sleep well. Some generic answer to avoid the conversation. But I was done avoiding. "I heard what you said last night," I said. "At the party," she frowned. "What are you talking about?" I repeated her exact words back to her. "He can't please anyone anyway." Her face shifted, confusion, then realization, then immediate defensiveness. That was nothing, just a joke." "It didn't sound like a joke," I said, and nobody laughed like it was one. "You're being too sensitive." She waved it off, just like she always did. Like my feelings were some minor inconvenience she didn't have time for. It was a big deal to me. I said quietly. "It made me realize something. You don't respect me, Jessica. You haven't for a long time. That's ridiculous, she scoffed. Of course I respect you. No, you don't. I looked her in the eyes. You criticize everything I do. You put me down in front of your friends, your family. You make me feel like I'm never enough, like I'm constantly failing. I don't do that, she said quickly. But there was a flicker guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at being called out. You do, I said, and I've let you, because I've been so desperate for your approval that I completely lost myself. I rubbed the back of my neck. I felt tired, but lighter somehow. But I'm done with that now. What is that supposed to mean? She asked, her voice rising. It means I'm done trying to please you. It means I'm going to start living for myself again. She stared at me. Then her face hardened. Is this a midlife crisis or something? What? Are you going to buy a motorcycle and start wearing leather? I almost laughed. That's how predictable her reaction was. Instant dismissal. Make me feel stupid for standing up for myself. No. Jessica, I said calmly. This is me finally seeing our marriage for what it is. This is me realizing I deserve better than being your emotional punching bag. You're being dramatic, maybe, I said, but I'm still done. That night, I slept in the guest room. And the night after that, Jessica alternated between stone-cold silence and picking fights over nothing. I didn't bite. I was polite, but distant. We were more like roommates than spouses. I didn't know it yet, but that was the beginning of the end. Over the next few weeks, things between Jessica and me got weird. I wasn't playing games. I wasn't trying to punish her or get back at her. I just stopped bending over backwards, stopped filtering every decision through the lens of what would keep her happy or keep the peace. At home, I no longer walked on eggshells. If she made a snide comment, I didn't argue or explain. I let it hang there, unanswered. You're wearing that, she asked one morning as I was getting dressed for work. You look like you're trying too hard. Normally, I'd have changed shirts immediately. This time, I just looked at her, shrugged, and said, I like it. Then I walked downstairs and made my breakfast. She sighed loudly, clearly wanting me to ask what was wrong. I didn't. If something was actually wrong, she could tell me. Otherwise, I wasn't going to play the guessing game anymore. That's when she really started to notice. It began with little jabs. You've been acting weird lately. What's gotten into you? You're being a jerk. You know that? I think at first she assumed I was just in a bad mood. Maybe I was going through something and would snap out of it eventually. But as the days turned into weeks, and I didn't revert to the version of me she was used to, the one who did everything to keep her satisfied, she started to panic. She changed tactics. First came seduction. After weeks, months, really of acting like I barely existed, she suddenly started walking around the house in lingerie. She'd accidentally brush up against me in the kitchen, suggest we take showers together. I'm not made of stone. A part of me, the part that still remembered the early days when we couldn't keep our hands off each other, wanted to give in, not just for the sex, but for the illusion of connection, the chance to feel wanted again. But I knew better. We'd been here before, sex, then a brief window where she'd act like she cared, and then the slow slide back into cold indifference and control. So I didn't give in. Not tonight, I'd say. Polite, calm, unmoved. Each rejection seemed to shock her more than the last. In her world, male desire was a lever to pull. Offer it and you get compliance. Withhold it and you get submission. But she had no idea what to do when it didn't work. When seduction failed, she tried guilt. One night she casually mentioned, "Your mom called today. She asked how we're doing." I didn't know what to tell her. Another time it was, "Don't you think your dad would be disappointed in how you're acting right now?" That one hit a nerve. My parents had raised me with the idea that marriage was forever, that you worked through problems, no matter what. I'd grown up believing that love meant sticking it out, even when it was hard. But then I'd remember all the years I'd spent being slowly chipped away. The way Jessica had made me feel small, like I wasn't enough. And I'd remember that I didn't owe anyone a lifetime of suffering to meet their expectations. My parents want me to be happy, I told her. That's all. When guilt didn't work, she moved to fear. You know you'll never find anyone else like me, she said one night quietly, after another failed attempt to get me to open up. No one else will love you like I have. God, I said before I could stop myself. I hope not. Her face crumpled for just a moment, a flicker of hurt. And yeah, I felt bad for a second. But then the mask went back up, and her tone turned bitter. You think you're so much better off without me. Good luck. You'll be begging to come back within a month. I don't think I'm better than you. Jessica, I said, I just think I deserve better than this, better than us. So that's it, she asked, arms crossed. 8 years of marriage and you're just giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm just finally admitting the truth. I paused. We don't make each other happy. We haven't for a long time. If we ever did, she had no response because she knew it was true. From there, she started throwing out little barbs, testing me, seeing if I'd snap back into old habits. You never do anything right. You'd be lost without me. God, you're impossible. The old me would have tried to prove her wrong, would have bent over backwards to make her feel loved, to earn her approval, to show her I was good enough. But now, I just looked at her, let her words hang in the air, then moved on, because they didn't matter anymore. She didn't get to define me anymore, and I could see the shift in her eyes. Not anger, not even frustration. It was uncertainty. For the first time, she realized she wasn't in control, not because I'd taken power from her, but because I had finally stopped giving it away. It wasn't a dramatic standoff. It was more like erosion, slow, steady, top permanent. About 2 months into this new normal, I decided to visit my brother in Chicago. He and his wife had just moved into a new house and had been inviting me for months. But Jessica always had a reason why we couldn't go. Too busy. Bad timing. She didn't like my sister-in-law. This time, I didn't ask. I just booked the flight. I told her on a Monday. Straight up, I'm going to Chicago this weekend. Friday to Sunday. She looked up from her phone, startled. You're going to Chicago this weekend? Yep, but we have the Andersons' dinner party on Saturday. The Andersons were her boss and his wife. Important to her career, not mine. You have the Andersons' dinner party. I corrected. I'll be in Chicago. You can't just not go. She sputtered. Martin specifically asked if you'd be there. He wants to talk to you about their retirement planning. He has my email, I said, sipping my coffee. You can let him know I had a prior commitment. A prior commitment. You just decided this. No, I said, calmly. My brother has been asking me for months. I've been putting it off for your convenience. I'm not doing that anymore. Her voice dropped, low and sharp. If you leave this weekend, don't bother coming back. I paused. Let the silence settle between us. Is that really how you want to play this? Jessica, ultimatums. It's not an ultimatum. It's a fact. If you choose your brother over me, over us, then we're done. I took a deep breath. My brother isn't a choice. He's my family, just like your sister isn't a choice for you. She was quiet. The fact that you see me visiting my own brother as some kind of betrayal, I said, says everything about where we are right now. That's not what I meant. Of course I can see him. She backtracked. Just not this weekend. Not when we have something important. Important for you, I said. Not for us. Not for me. My career matters too. Mike, I never said it didn't, I said, standing up. But so does my life. So does my family. So do I. She threw her hands up. I don't even know who you are anymore. And I told her the truth. That's the thing. Jessica. I'm not sure you ever did. I went to Chicago that weekend. Jessica sent me a stream of texts, first demanding. I come home, then guilt-tripping me, then telling me how much I'd hurt her. I responded to none of them. When I got back, I was sitting on the couch, drinking a beer and watching the game when she finally snapped. You don't even care about this marriage anymore, do you? I looked at her and said, with zero emotion, not the way it is now. And that was it. That was the moment she knew it was over. Not because I yelled, not because I made a scene, but because I wasn't afraid anymore. 3 weeks after that final conversation, I was served divorce papers. At work. Classic Jessica move trying to catch me off guard. Embarrass me in front of my colleagues. I signed for them, thanked the courier, and went right back to my meeting. My boss, who'd met Jessica a few times and never seemed too fond of her, just gave me a small nod, like he knew, like he approved. That weekend, I moved out, found a clean, decent apartment closer to the office. Nothing fancy, nothing big, but it was mine. No curated furniture arrangements from Architectural Digest. No hand towels that couldn't be touched. Just peace. I braced for devastation, heartbreak, loneliness, but it never came. What I felt, more than anything, was relief. I started sleeping better, eating better, smiling more. It was subtle at first, like my body was slowly remembering what it felt like to breathe. My buddies noticed the change right away. "You seem like your old self again," my friend Dave said over beers one night. He was right. I hadn't even realized how far I'd drifted from that version of me, the laid-back, confident guy who used to laugh without thinking about how it looked. I hired a good lawyer and got ready for the battle I knew Jessica would bring. She'd always said, "If we ever get divorced, I'll take you for everything." It wasn't an empty threat. I'd heard her say similar things to friends about their exes. I would have cleaned him out if I hadn't been so generous. But I wasn't going to be her next story. I had documentation, proof of my income, of how I'd supported her spending habits, the vacations, the designer bags, the renovations. I wasn't trying to screw her over, but I wasn't going to let her screw me either. And then karma stepped in. 2 months into our separation, Jessica's company announced a round of layoffs. The luxury retail market had taken a hit, and her firm was downsizing hard. She was one of the first to go. Suddenly, the high-flying marketing job with the expense account and company car was gone. Just like that, a week later, she texted me, "Jessica, can we talk?" Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met for coffee, in public, neutral ground, witnesses. I wasn't stupid. She looked bad, not messy. Exactly. Still had the designer bag, the blowout, the makeup, but there were dark circles under her eyes. Her frame looked thinner than usual, not in the model thin way she usually liked, but fragile, worn down. For a moment, I felt that old pang of concern. I had loved this woman for nearly a decade. Seeing her like that didn't bring me joy. It didn't feel like victory. It just felt sad. She stirred her latte nervously and said, "I've been doing some thinking. Maybe we rushed into this divorce." I almost laughed. "You filed. Jessica, not me." I was angry. She said, "You changed so suddenly. I didn't know how to handle it." "I didn't change," I said. "I just stopped putting up with being treated like garbage." She flinched. "Good. I lost my job," she admitted after a beat. "The severance isn't great, and with the housing market the way it is." There it was. Not "I miss you," not "I realize how badly I treated you," just "I need your money." "That sucks," I said, sipping my coffee, "but it's not my problem anymore." "Mike, please," she said, voice cracking. "I don't have anywhere to go. My parents are in Europe for the next few months. Emma's place is tiny. I can't afford the mortgage on my own. You should have thought about that," I said, standing up. "Before treating me like your doormat for 8 years. You're smart, Jessica. You'll figure it out." She started crying. Right there, in Starbucks, the old me would have folded, would have held her hand, offered help, begged to fix things. But not this version of me. "I'm seeing a therapist," she said suddenly, as I turned to leave. "She's helping me understand why I behave the way I do. It's related to my childhood, my father's expectations." "Stop," I interrupted. "I don't need to hear it." "It's too late." "It's never too late," she insisted, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I pulled away. "People change. Mike, I'm changing. We can be better. Together." I looked at her for a long moment. "You might change," I said. "You might even be better for someone else. But not for me." "Why not?" "Because I don't want you back. Not now. Not ever." And I think that broke her in a way nothing else had. Because I was the first person she'd ever wanted who didn't want her back. She whispered, "I still love you." "No," I said. "You loved the version of me that made your life easy. Who said yes? Who never stood up for himself? That's not love." I walked out of that Starbucks 10 feet tall. The next day, my lawyer called to say Jessica was suddenly open to a much more reasonable settlement. Funny how that works. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. She had to move out of the house. We sold it at a loss and split the proceeds. I didn't want it. Too many bad memories. Last I heard, she was living in a run-down apartment in a less than great part of town. She got a new job eventually, but it was at a smaller company with a smaller paycheck. Her Instagram, silent. No more tropical vacations. No more #blessed. No more posts flaunting her perfect life. I'm 35 now, still single, still healing, but dating again, slowly. I bought a small house I actually like, in a neighborhood close to my friends. It's not flashy, but it's peaceful. It's mine. And yeah, I met someone. Her name's Allison. She's 33, pediatric nurse, funny as hell. Kind in a way that Jessica never even pretended to be. It's early days, but it feels easy, natural. I don't have to perform, don't have to earn her affection or decode her moods. The first time she asked, "What do you want to do this weekend?" and actually waited for my answer, I nearly proposed on the spot. She knows everything about the marriage, the divorce, the damage. I didn't hide it, and she still shows up. Last month, Jessica texted me again. "Jessica, I heard you're seeing someone. I hope she makes you happy." 2 minutes later, another message. "Jessica, my lease is up soon and I'm having trouble finding a new place. Could you maybe co-sign for me? Just as a favor. For old time's sake." I blocked her number. Some people never change. Sometimes. I think about how close I came to spending the rest of my life trying to please someone who was never going to be pleased. How one careless comment, "he can't please anyone anyway," was the crack that split the dam. It wasn't just about that night. It was about 8 years of slow, quiet erosion. It was about rediscovering who I am, a man with self-respect, a man who doesn't need someone else's approval to feel worthy. And that's worth more than any marriage, house, or lifestyle she ever offered.